the transition into the backcourt. I wanted to get like your take on it because you have been probably one of the most vocal people in the Detroit Pistons community and on the beat about Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham and the fit. So I do want to give you kudos to that. You're one of the very few beat writers that has been a believer in Ivey, been a believer in Cade. What have you liked about this backcourt so far this season, and maybe some dislikes?
To be honest, I don't have a whole lot of dislikes at this moment. I mean, they're kind of overachieving like at a higher rate than I thought they would. I thought it would maybe take them a little bit of time to kind of get used to playing under JB Bickerstaff's system, but I love everything that I'm seeing from these two right now. I really do. I think knowing that they play different styles makes it easier to me for them to mesh together. And that's what I was saying all off season. Like if you have a JB Bickerstaff who's able to make it work with two undersized guards who kind of play similar styles, you should have a little bit of an easier task with guys like Cade and Jaden Ivey, just based on talent. I'm not basing it on what they've been through, in terms of their career, but based on how they play, man, I'm loving how they're be able to, fit together right now, whether it's Cade who can bring the ball up court, Ivy, whether he's hot, he can bring it up court, and they run a lot of motion to put them in the right spots instead of just letting them play one-on-one basketball, which I think they did a lot of today. But outside of today, we've seen Cade, play off ball, and he's playing on the block, and Ivy will go try to find him. The community of the Pistons who believes that Cade is not a point guard, I don't understand y'all, because outside of the numbers alone, it don't even have to be about Cade. The part that I love about Ivy's game so much, which highlights my reasoning of letting him be the point guard, is Jaden Ivey is so good at cutting off ball and giving Cade that assistance that he needs when he's getting that extra attention. There was a play where I think Stu, it was against the Lakers, where he, flashes up to the free throw line, and I think Anthony Davis or Austin Reeves like kind of hedges over a little bit, and Ivy immediately jets to the hoop and gets an easy dunk. Like, those are the benefits that you have, and that's the brilliant coaching that JB Bickerstaff has exuded by saying, okay, he's quick. We're going to use him like this. We're going to, use him in transition to make sure he's taking advantage of that athleticism. So I just feel like to me, Cade being the best passer on the team, even with his turnovers, I feel like it just makes so much sense to leave him as the point guard, and they've done a good enough job to, even if it's Cade not being the leading scorer, there's going to be nights where Ivy is between 20, 25 points, and Cade maybe is giving you 17, 18 points, but 10 assists on top of that. You can win with that formula. So as long as you're getting, assistance from the veterans around them and they're knocking down open shots, I think that duo is going to be just fine. I think they kind of have already established that they can play together. We just need to see if they can win long-term together at this point.
Yeah, I thought a lot of the conversations that a lot of Pistons fans in the community have had is, well, they haven't won together, but to your point, the way Dwayne Casey, obviously they only played 12 games together in Dwayne Casey's final year.
Right.
The way Monty Williams used Jaden Ivey, that was just a clown show last year. It's a complete difference. Like, you didn't really see Jaden Ivey in motion type offenses. You didn't see him coming off screens, coming up DHO screens with Isaiah Stewart or Jalen Duren or Paul Reed for that matter. The fact that he moves without the basketball, tries to get into plays that maybe he's not a part of, like, I believe it was last game against the Hawks in the fourth quarter, and someone had missed a shot, and he's all the way at the 3-point line, and he comes in and gets a tip back.
Yep.
Like, you didn't see that last year with Jaden Ivey. He's making himself available, and I think that's why it's worked a lot with these two. And it also helps. His shooting, I think, needs to be talked about more. He's one of the better shooters on this team, along with Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley. Like, if you told me Jaden Ivey was going to shoot 40% from three, the first 10 or so games in the season, I'd be like, oh, okay, so he's taking, that step in development. I think that's been the biggest kind of mark against them so far is Jaden Ivey needs to be a consistent shooter, and then this backcourt can work. But I think even if he's, around, 36, 37%, and he's, in that kind of like motion type offense, I think this backcourt can work. And you have some decisions to make this summer if you want to extend him, because he is extension eligible. And, outside of tonight, that was his only bad game so far this season, in my opinion. first 10 games, I would be more than happy to extend and lock up this backcourt for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, JB should be very encouraged from what he's seen. Also on top of, I think, two other areas where I think they've shown where, they're truly thriving with one another. And it kind of hones in on the issues that Ivy's been having as well. He draws contact better than anybody else on this roster. And the refs give him his whistle too. It's not like where it's Cade and he's got to argue and fight and preach for it. They give it to Ivy. So when he's getting to the line as often as anybody else on that roster, he's got to be hovering around 80%. He cannot be shooting around, sub 70s and whatnot. So when you have him in these motion offenses, or if you have him pushing, the ball in transition and getting, if not a dunk or a layup, he's at least getting to the foul line. That's 2 easy points right there. And that's the kind of pressure that we didn't see from him last season. And it also goes to speak on, we talked about this during media day as well. 3 coaches in 3 seasons for a young player like him, and even Jalen Duren, that's not anything to take lightly. Even for Cade Cunningham's situation, like having 3 coaches in the short amount of time that they've had in their career is not easy to adjust to, especially considering, like you just said, the styles are completely different. Casey was kind of just letting them, figure it out. Hey, go out there. We'll see what we can do. Monty was supposed to put in the 0.5 offense, which to me is still non-existent at this point. JB is the only one that's really putting some actual details and assignments together with his offenses, and what's showing right now. They also deserve a lot of credit. Both of them deserve a lot of credit defensively for what they've been doing. Ivy has been, people called him on social media a cone for a long time, giving him a lot of pushback. And there was a lot of worry about Cade, having to be one of the primary defenders. So with Asar out, I think he's been fantastic. His numbers have shown it, and Ivy has shown that he can be productive as well, playing in passing lanes and opening up transition opportunities as well. So, yeah, I don't have any question on them right now. I think today was one of those question days because, hey, when the shot's not going, what are y'all going to do? And I think that's the next step for them to figure it out on the way to the winning path.
Yeah, I do agree with you. When I was talking with Blake Silverman and Wes Davenport on their podcast, The Pin Down, they were kind of like digging into the analytics, which I don't really dive into the numbers too much, but they told me that Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey averaged 38 deflections per game. And that's pretty high. That's pretty high for a backcourt that a lot of people labeled as non-defensive.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the game against the Hawks was Jaden Ivey's best defensive effort in a Detroit Pistons uniform. Like I was telling people, it reminds me of like 2016 Detroit KCP, like the way he was just fighting, competing. That's what it reminded me of, like watching him, because some of the blocks he had, I don't know if you got to go back and watch, man. Like he blocked. I don't know who he blocked, but man, he was definitely cussing after the block. Like he was up for it. But overall, I've been really pleased with this backcourt. But I think Organic Lindo makes a really good comment about Jaden Ivey in terms of like Jaden needs to learn that he just can't out athlete on certain defenders, which I think with time he'll understand that you can't just use your speed and athleticism. You gotta have to outsmart them and outquick them and learn to use your speed, when to use it and when not to use it. And I think there have been games this year where he's learned how to do that, but I think tonight it just maybe he got in his head a little bit. But overall, I've been really pleased with him.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one of the next steps of his development in defensive sets, especially where, like you said, against the Hawks, they weren't just, putting him in the corner to, watch for the spot up shooters. He was on Trae Young for a good portion of that game. And that's not an easy assignment for anybody. For a guy that likes foul baiting, a guy that can shoot, he has a very crafty handle. Trae, again, a lot of players on social media begin to slander. Trae Young's a damn good basketball player, and all these narratives around some of these guys just got to stop. So, yeah, Ivy's got to work on that on the offense and defensive end. I think he's done a good job offensively of channeling his speed, knowing when to slow down, knowing when to accelerate. He did a good job of that against the Sixers. Did a good job against, I think it was the Lakers. Like, he's done a really good job of adjusting with that. Defensively is the next task because he's been getting in foul trouble a lot lately. So, that's going to be something to pay attention to. And it's definitely something he's been working on with JB as well. So, again, those steps are there. The help and assistance has been there from the vets, the coaching staff. it should come together hopefully sooner than later.